Learning English through exercise. Number 15. Today we are going to study present simple WH questions. Present simple WH questions. Number 1. Where you go to school. Where, and then question for you is do. Where do you go to school? SCHOOL. It's not a yes or no question, so the end gotta go down. Where do you go to school? So this part you can read as go to, but you can hear American people saying go to. Where do you go to school? Where do you go to school? Number 2, what you do. So what is the question word? And then you do, and the question word for you is gonna be do. What do you do? What do you do is your job, your occupation. Occupation or job. If somebody asks you, what do you do? You can say, I'm a teacher. I work at a factory. I'm a driver, something like that. What do you do? Where John come from? So where is the question word talking about the place, and John is the subject. And John is the third person singular, so it's going to be comes, but it's a question, so we don't put as here. Instead, we put does. Where does John come from? So what is John's nationality? Where is he from? Where does John come from? How long it take from London to Paris? So how long is the question word? How long? And then it is the subject, but how long? So this one we need does. How long does it take? How long does it take from London? From London to Paris. From London to Paris. Paris. Again, it's not yes, no question. The end gotta go down. How long does it take from London to Paris? How often she go to the cinema? How often is the question word? Asking about frequency. How often? So she is third person singular. So we use does. How long does she go to the cinema? Go to the cinema. Okay. Let's go back to the first sentence. Where do you go to school? Again, go to school. So when you pronounce this, you say go to. But when T comes between two vowels, it flaps, you say go to. Go to. Where do you go to school? What do you do? What do you do? What is your job? What is your occupation? Where does John come from? Does. So read as where does John come from? Where does John come from? How long does it? So read this together. Does it? Does it? How long does it take from London to Paris? How long does it take from London to Paris? How often? Remember T is silent. How often does she? So does she, there is S, there is SH. So put does she. How long does she go to? Again, this one to go to the cinema. How often does she go to the cinema? Okay, let's read from the beginning. Where do you go to school? What do you do? Where does John come from? How long does it take from London to Paris? How often does she go to the cinema? Number 6. How many children? So how many children is the question word? How many children? Children, and then subject is you. How many children you have? So you is a second person singular, so we need do. How many children? do you have? How many children do you have? And next one, when is the question word? When you get up. When you get up. And then the auxiliary we need is do. When do you get up? When do you get up? And number 8, how often? How often? And you study English. How often you study English? And then we need do for you. How often do you study English? And number 9, what time? What time? And then the film is the subject. The film start. S-T-A-R-T. What time? The film is it, third person singular. So we need to put what time does the film start? What time does the film start? And then number 10, where is the question word? Where you play tennis. And then the auxiliary we need is do. Where do you play tennis? Where do you play tennis? Let's go back to the first one, number 6. How many children do you have? How many children do you have? There's no problem. How many children? How many cars? How many books do you have? When do you get up? So this part you read as get up and T flaps. Say get up, get up. When do you get up? When do you get up? How often? Remember T is silent. How often do you study English? How often do you study English? What time does the film start? What time does it? What time does the film start? Number 10, where do you play tennis? Where do you play tennis? Not much to study. So let's just read the next, let's go to the next page. How many children do you have? When do you get up? When do you get up? Get up. How often do you study English? What time does the film start? Where do you play tennis? And number 17, what sports? What sports? What sport is the question word? What sport? And then Lucy is the subject. Lucy like. And then Lucy is third person singular. So we need to put does. What sports does Lucy like? What sports does Lucy like? And then number 12. How is the question word? How? They. How they get to work. Get to work. And they is third person plural. So we need do. How do they get to work? How do they go to work? How do they get to work? And number 13, how often is the question word? How often? And then I come here. I come here. How often I come here? And then the auxiliary unit is do. How often do I come here? How often do I come here? Where she live? Where is the question word? She is the subject and live is the verb. And then she is a third person singular. Where does she live? Where does she live? And number 15, why? And you is the subject. Eat so much. Eat so much chocolate. CHOCOLATE and question mark. You is second person singular, so we need do. Why do you eat so much chocolate? Why do you eat so much chocolate? Let's go to number 11. What sports does Lucy like? What sports does Lucy like? Lucy like. What sports does Lucy like? And number 12, how do they get to work? How do they get to work? How do they get to work? And how often do I come here? Again, T is silent. How often do I come here? Come here, come here, come here. And where does she live? Number 14, where does she live? So here, does and she. So they're similar, so you can cancel the sound. Where does she live? Where does she live? Where does she live? And number 15, why do you eat so much chocolate? Chocolate. Why do you eat so much chocolate? Not much. So let's read them one more time. What sports does Lucy like? How do they get to work? How often do I come here? Where does she live? Where does she live? Why do you eat so much chocolate? Why do you eat so much chocolate? Okay. Number 16. What? What is the question word? And then this machine. This machine is the subject. What this machine and then do. So here this machine is third person singular. So what does? What does this machine do? What does this machine do? And number 17, who? And she is the subject. Meet on Saturdays. Meet on Saturdays. Saturdays. So, and the she is third person singular. We need does. Who does she meet on Saturdays? Who does she meet on Saturdays? And number 18. How many brothers? How many brothers is the question word. How many brothers? And then she have. She have. And then she is third person singular. We need to put does. How many brothers does she have? And number 19. How much? How much is the question word. This is the subject and cost is the verb. And then this is third person singular, so we need to put does. How much does this cost? And where you eat lunch? Where is the question word? You eat lunch. So it is the verb and lunch is the object. So you is second person singular. Where do you eat lunch? Now let's go back to number 16. What does this machine do? What does this? What does this machine do? Who does she? So here, does she, again, does she. So you can cancel this sound. You can say, you don't have to say does she, say does she. Who does she meet on? Meet on, meet, and on. And then T flat, meet on, meet on. Who does she meet on Saturdays? Who does she meet on Saturdays? Who does she meet on Saturdays? And number 18. How many brothers does she? Again, you can cancel this sound. Does she have? How many brothers does she have? And how much does this cost? How much does this cost? So this one you can read as cost. How much does this cost? Where do you eat lunch? Where do you eat lunch? Again, not much to practice, so let's read it one more time and go to the next page. What does this machine do? Who does she meet on Saturdays? Who does she meet on Saturdays? How many brothers does she have? How many brothers does she have? How much does this cost? How much does this cost? And where do you eat lunch? Where do you eat lunch? Number 21. Why is the question word? And then he is the subject. Hate me. Hate is the verb, and me is the object, and then he is the third person singular. So we need to use does. Why does he hate me? Why does he hate me? Who is the question word? You is the subject, and then play soccer with. Play soccer with. Okay, so I'm going to explain this. We are going to talk about number 22 a little bit later. Who and you is the second person singular. So who do you play soccer with? And where is the question word? Where? And they is the subject. They work. Where work? Where do they work? Where do they work? Where do they work? And when is the question word, James is the subject, and then come to school. To school, question. And James third person singular, so we need to use does. When does James come to school? And finally, how is the question word, and Sandy is the subject. And then go to work. Go to work is the verb, and then Sandy is third person singular. So we need to put how does Sandy go to work? How does Sandy go to work? Let's go back to 21. Why does he? Why does he? So read this together as does, and the H is silent. Does it? Does it? Does it? Why does it? Why does he? Why does he hate me? Hate me. Hate me. Why does he hate me? Why does he hate me? Who do you play soccer with? Who do you play soccer with? Where do they work? No problem. When does James come to school? When does James come to school? No problem. How does Sandy go to work? So here, go to, and T flaps, go to work. How does Sandy go to work? Let's read them one more time. Why does he hate me? Why does he hate me? Who do you play soccer with? Who do you play soccer with? Where do they work? Where do they work? When does James come to school? When does James come to school? How does Sandy go to work? How does Sandy go to work? Now let's think about 22. Actually, the right sentence we know is with whom do you play soccer? With whom do you play soccer? This is the sentence we know. But in English, they don't want the preposition they don't want the preposition to come at the beginning, so they send this to the back. So whom do you play soccer with? Okay, but again, so English doesn't like the whom. This is not subjective, this is objective, so they cancel this m, so they make this who do you play soccer with. So this is the sentence we finally get. But just remember, with is supposed to be at the beginning, and then who is not who, but who is supposed to be whom. With whom do you play soccer? With whom do you play soccer? But they don't do this. So here, cancel this, and then keep with at the end. So who do you play soccer with?